Ever notice how everybody's got an opinion these days? But imagine like getting paid for yours, not just shouting into the void, but, on a bigger stage.
Yeah,
That's a spokesperson gig, right?
totally.
And whether you're like really polishing that resume or just, curious about what goes on behind those super polished statements they make, this deep dive into the life of a spokesperson, this is for you.
Yeah, you're so right. And what we're diving into today, thanks to RoleCatcher, they've got this awesome career guide, is how those professionals mix strategy, and charisma. It's fascinating.
They really seem to know what they're talking about, RoleCatcher.
Yeah.
Their guide is full of great stuff.
Yeah.
And we're not just like skimming here for our listeners.
Right.
We're going deep on what a spokesperson actually does, how they handle those crazy pressure situations, and why this whole career path, more relevant than ever, I think.
It's so true. And it's more than just looking good on camera or even just like being good with words. It's understanding how communication works, like the psychology of it, crafting the story, and honestly, sometimes navigating some tricky ethical situations too.
Okay, yeah, let's break that down a bit. RoleCatcher mentions spokespeople. They're representing clients through public announcements and conferences.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of straightforward on paper, but I feel like there's got to be more to it. Is it as glamorous as we think?
Well, okay, picture this. You're on stage, you're announcing some big tech innovation, lights are flashing, cameras are going crazy, the energy is amazing, right?
Yeah.
Now, cut two. You're calmly talking to a room full of journalists. They're all worried because maybe there's a product recall or something. And every single word scrutinized.
Oh, wow.
Both of those are a spokesperson's reality and the skills you need for both. Super different.
It's not just about the message then. It's the whole context, the audience, knowing how to change your approach. RoleCatcher really emphasizes communication strategies.
Yeah.
What's that even mean for this job? It's got to be more than just like a good soundbite, right?
Absolutely. It's way more layered. Think of it like this. You got to figure out the right way to reach your people, your audience. Is it old school media, social media, even just internal stuff inside a company?
Right.
Then you craft the message they'll actually care about. And you got to be ready for those curveballs, challenges, pushback. You've got to have a plan.
So it's shaping how people see things, controlling the message, but also like predicting how they'll react in the first place.
Exactly. That's where the psychology bit comes in. Might surprise some people.
Yeah.
But to be really good at this, you've got to read the room, know what makes people tick, then tailor everything to that. It's persuasion, not just presenting.
That's really interesting. So communications background helps, sure. But even psychology, that's a real viable path to this.
Oh, absolutely. At its core, it's connecting with people. That crosses disciplines.
Now, RoleCatcher mentions offices, media studios, conference centers. Is that really all it is? Cubicles all day? What's the vibe, the environment like?
No way. One of the best parts is how much variety there is. One day, you're at a crazy busy PR agency. The next, you're on a film set or even like out in the field for some live event.
Wow.
And yeah, they even mentioned working remotely, which is like huge these days. Imagine a press conference from your couch. Talk about a flexible schedule.
That's pretty tempting. But real talk, they also have that condition section, and doesn't sound easy. What's the stress like, really?
Let's just say, not for the faint heart.
Okay.
Imagine, huge company, major crisis, product recall, total PR nightmare. Who's in the hot seat? The spokesperson.
Yeah.
You got to handle it, address those concerns, protect the company, all while the world watches.
Intense.
You need serious composure,
Wrong.
cool head under pressure.
Sounds like walking a tightrope, honestly, in front of everyone.
It is. And it's not just the media, it's the internal stuff too. Calming people down inside the company, making sure everyone's on the same page. You're the voice and the stakes are high.
So being a spokesperson, it's way more than just, being able to talk. But if someone's thinking, this is my dream job, what does it even take to get started? RoleCatcher has a whole section on skills and education, so let's get into it.
It's interesting. You'd think, oh, communications degree, right.
Right.
But RoleCatcher actually talks about a bunch more. Journalism, marketing, even law. All great foundations, apparently.
That's true. You need to think on your feet, organize info fast, communicate clearly when things are crazy. It's not what you say, it's how you say it in those fields, for sure.
And that's where the psychology we mentioned, it comes back around. RoleCatcher specifically talks about really understanding persuasion and how the public sees things. Because it's not enough to just give the facts, right? You got to know how to present them so they click with people, get the result you want. That's the spokesperson skill.
It's knowing what makes people tick, right? Like what motivates them, worries them, even their biases. But then doing it all ethically, that's the key.
Exactly. Building that trust. That's deeper than just being well-spoken. Authenticity, being open, connecting like a human being, even with tough topics, controversial stuff, that's what matters.
Speaking of which, RoleCatcher, they outline different stages, like junior spokesperson all the way up to senior, so there's room to grow, specialize. Yeah. What are the big differences there for our listeners thinking about their career path?
Good question. So starting out junior level, you're probably handling the media calls, writing press releases, planning events, that kind of thing.
Makes sense.
But as you get experience, you move into strategy, the bigger picture, crisis management, even coaching, like big bosses on their public speaking. That's high-level stuff.
So steep learning curve, but potential to really move up.
Oh, absolutely. And when you get to those top spots, thinking ahead, seeing problems before they happen, good judgment under pressure, that's crucial. Can't teach that stuff.
It's kind of wild. RoleCatcher talks about shaping public perception. It's like a lot of power, right?
It is. Not something to be taken lightly, that's for sure. A spokesperson, they can sway opinion, change how a whole story is told, even impact like what happens in the world.
Yeah, it really makes you think about it. Every word matters, how you carry yourself, even just the message itself. It's not spin. It's like understanding how powerful communication is and using it the right way.
Right. And that takes us to, honestly, what I think is the coolest part of this whole thing, how tech changes the game constantly.
Yeah.
Remember when we were talking about social media before? That's just one way this job is changing so
You're
fast.
kidding. It's not like the old days. Just send a press release, do some TV, done.
Yeah.
Now you got to be everywhere online, talking to different people on all these platforms that won't stop changing.
Yeah.
Whole different world.
For real. And it's not just knowing how to use the tech, it's knowing how to use it right. Building those connections, real talk, and yeah, even handling those crises when they go viral instantly.
Yeah.
That speed is crazy.
RoleCatcher doesn't get into specifics like which platforms are best or the strategy there. We could do a whole nother deep dive on that alone probably. But from what you've seen, what should aspiring spokespeople be thinking about with all this new media stuff?
You know, honestly, being genuine, that's huge. People are so over the fake, perfectly curated online stuff.
I hear that.
But someone who keeps it real, who you can actually relate to, who's straight up honest even when it's tough, that cuts through the noise every time.
So it's less about the perfect soundbite now and more about just like building that trust, actually talking to people.
Exactly. You got to really get your audience what they care about, what they're worried about, even where they hang out online. Meet them there, build something real. Respect goes both ways, you know.
It's almost like less broadcasting, more like a conversation now.
That's a great way to put it. And that takes a whole different skill set. Empathy, listening, but then also being good with all this tech. Handling a crisis when everyone's watching online. It's a lot.
We've covered so much today.
Yeah.
Big thanks to RoleCatcher for this awesome guide and to you for, breaking it all down with us.
Happy to do it. Always love a good chat about this stuff.
And listeners, we want to know what you took away from this spokesperson deep dive. Hit us up on social media, leave a review, whatever. Let's keep this conversation going. Until next time, happy learning, everyone.